Students, today we are going to learn about how to find the normal balance of ledger accounts. How to find the normal balance of ledger accounts. For that, we have to use one formula. Look at the formula first. Expenses and assets to be debited. Income and liabilities are to be credited. Once again, expenses and assets to be debited. Income and liability to be credited. Okay, now I am going to explain with the meaning. Yes. State the normal balance of the following accounts. It's for sole trading concern, not for companies. Capital always shows credit balance. Capital always shows credit balance. It is a liability. Drawing always shows debit balance. Drawings always shows debit balance. Why? It is an asset. Because the owner, proprietor owes money to the business. So it is an asset, debit. Income tax shows debit balance. Why income tax shows debit balance? Income tax is a tax on proprietor, not on the business. So it is a personal expenses of the proprietor. So we should debit it. It is an asset. Then purchase, it is an expense, so we should debit. Purchase return should be credited. We should give opposite effect for purchase. Then sales. Sales is an income, credit. Sales return is debit. Opening stock is an expense. Students, opening stock is not an asset. It is an expense. Closing stock is an asset. Okay. So opening stock is an expense, debit. Wages is an expense, debit. Carriage. Carriage means freight. It may be inwards or outwards. It may be carriage on purchase or carriage on sales, or freight on purchase or freight on sales. It is expense, so it should be debited. Next, fuel, gas, water, power. It is an expense, debited. Factory rent, it is an expense, debit. Salary, always it is paid only, expense, debit. Insurance, always paid only, it is an expense, debit. Printing and stationery, it is an expense, debit. Postage and telephone, expense, debit. Electricity charges, expense, debit. Traveling expense, it is an expense, debit. Selling expense, it is an expense, debit. General expenses or miscellaneous expenses, it is an expense, debit. Next, this is very, very important. Students, this is very, very important. Rent, interest, commission, discount. If these are paid, rent paid, interest paid, commission paid, discount paid. Paid is given, that is debit. If these are all received, rent received, interest received, commission received, discount received, it should be credited. This is very, very important. Here, rent, interest, commission, discount, paid or received given. If paid and received are given, we can ascertain the aspect easily. Here, this is also very, very important. Here, they want to ascertain the normal balance, but rent paid or received, interest paid or received, commission paid or received, discount paid or received not given. So, this in this case, we should assume as paid, it will be in the debit balance. It will be in the debit balance. Okay. Dividend, as far as sole trading concern, is an income, credit. Dividend, as far as sole trading concern, it is income, credit. Miscellaneous income, credit. Apprenticeship premium, it is an income, credit. Bad debts recovered is an income, credit. Cash in hand is an asset, debit. Cash at bank, bank debit. Debit. Debtor or book debts, asset, debit. Bad debts is a loss, debit. Debit all expenses and losses. Provision for doubtful debts, very, very important, students. Provision for bad and doubtful debts. If it is old provision for doubtful debts, It is an income, so credit. Old provision for doubtful debts is given. It is an income, credit. New provision for doubtful debts at the time of preparing balance sheet. We will deduct new provision for bad and doubtful debts from debtor. That is a liability. Old provision for doubtful debts, we should treat it as an income. New provision for doubtful debts, we should treat it as a liability. Okay. It may be an income or liability. It will be appear in the credit side. Okay. Next. Investment is an asset, debit. Land and building is an asset, debit. Plant and machinery is an asset, debit. Furniture, fitting, fixtures, asset, debit. Business premises, freehold premises. Premises are properties, assets, debit. Leasehold property, asset, debit. Next, vehicle or properties, assets, debit. Goodwill is an asset, debit. Creditor is a liability, credit. Bills receivable or BR, asset, debit. Bills payable or BP is a liability, credit. Bank overdraft payable to the banker, liability, credit. Bank loan payable to the bank, credit, liability, credit. Loan borrowed from the bank or from any other person, we have to repay, it is a liability, credit. Loan given, loan lent, it is an asset, debit. So loan borrowed is a liability, credit. Loan given, loan lent is an asset, debit. Here loan borrowed, loan lent, given. So borrowed means it is a liability, credit. Loan given, it is an asset, debit. Here loan borrowed or given, not given. Borrowed or lent, not given. So we should treat it as a liability. It should be credit. General reserve, very important. General reserve, reserve fund, any fund. What is general reserve? It is an amount set aside from the profits of the business to adjust unforeseen losses. So we kept some amount for future losses. If there is no loss in the future, that amount payable to the owner, so liability, it will be credit. It will be credit. Okay. Outstanding expenses, it is a liability, credit. Outstanding expenses. Outstanding expenses. Expenses incurred but not paid. We have to pay amount to somebody. It is a liability, credit. Prepaid or unexpired expenses. It is an asset, debit. We paid for next year. We paid the amount, expenses of next year, that is prepaid expenses or unexpired or carry forward expenses. These are all assets, debit. Income accrued, it is an asset, debit. Income accrued is an asset. What is income accrued? Income earned but not yet received during the year, it is an asset. Income received in advance is a liability, credit. We received income but work not done. We owe money to somebody, so it will appear in the liability, so it will appear in the liability side and it will be credited. Students, we learned how to find the normal balance of the ledger account. It is a tip for the preparation of trial balance. In next class, we will solve trial balance problem and with meaning. Till then, bye and thank you.